Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about cell division. Specifically, we're going to be talking about mitosis. We're going to be talking about what cells are the ones that undergo mitosis, and we're going to be talking about different phases of mitosis. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. If we're going to be talking about cell division, we need to talk about DNA. Deoxyribonucleic acid, also known as DNA, it is the molecule that is passed from parents to offspring. So the DNA that is found inside your cells, half of it came from mom, and the second one came from dad. It is common to all living organisms. It serves as instructions on how to make an individual. So essentially, if I wanted to make another person just like you, what I need to do is to extract your DNA, and from it, I basically had instructions on how to build another human being. Now, this is not possible today. However, maybe 20, maybe 50 years from now, maybe we could do it. DNA is found in the nucleus in eukaryotic cells. It is in the form of chromosomes. So today we're going to be focused on our attention on chromosomes. So DNA is tightly wrapped around proteins known as histones, and that's what makes the chromosome. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Half of those came from mom, and the other half came from dad. 22 of those chromosomes are autosomes, and there's something very special about the 23rd one. So let's find out what's so special about the 23rd pair. So the 23rd pair of chromosomes is the one that determines the sex of the individual. So if you have two copies of the X chromosome, you're going to be a female, and if you have an X and a Y, you're going to be a male. So mom can only give you X chromosome, and dad can give you either the X or the Y. So we say that the father is the one that determines the sex of the individual. So let's talk more about cell division. So tissues are defined as an organized group of different cell types that work together to carry out a particular function. So cell division is the process by which cells reproduce. So why would a cell want to reproduce? There are several reasons. So whenever you were being made, you had the egg and the sperm, and these two cells fused together in order to make one cell. And then that cell divided into 2 to 4, 8, 62, 64, until eventually you were just a mass of cells. And what happens is that these cells begin to communicate with each other until eventually they form a full offspring. So one of the reasons why a cell would want to divide is just to make a full organism. A second reason is whenever the cells need to be replaced, whenever the cells are damaged, then they need to be replaced. And the third one is whenever you get a cut, whenever you get damage. So what the body needs to do is to repair that damage. So these are three reasons why the cell will undergo cell division. So a cell doesn't just split in half. And the reason for that is because imagine if a cell would only split in half, if a cell had a mutation, then all the other cells would inherit that mutation. Instead, the cell passes through a series of phases, and different things happen in each of those phases. And that's a protective mechanism that our body has in order to prevent from a cell that is mutating from replicating. However, sometimes that does happen, and we'll talk about cancer. So the cell cycle is an order of sequence of stages. There's a preparatory phase and also a division phase. One cell divides into two identical cells. They're identical in terms of size, in terms of the amount of DNA, and the amount of organelles that it has. So the first thing that happens in the cell division is that the cell undergoes a preparatory phase known as interphase. And what happens during the interphase is that the organelles of the DNA in the cytoplasm are duplicated, so that at the end, each of the new cells have the exact same DNA. It also has the same size as well. So interphase is divided into three phases: gap1 phase, also known as G1, synthetic phase, also known as S phase, and gap2 phase, also known as G2 phase. So let's find out what happens in each of those phases. So the first phase of interphase is the G1 phase. And what happens in the G1 phase is that the cell grows in size, it makes extracytoplasm, and some of the organelles begin to replicate. And then we have the S phase. So what happens during the S phase is that we make extra DNA. So here I have a chromosome, and what happens during the S phase is that we make an extra copy of that chromosome. However, those chromosomes are attached in the middle through a centromere. So we call each of those chromosomes sister chromatids. And so what happens at the end is that those sister chromatids are going to be pulled apart to become individual chromosomes. And then we go to the G2 phase. So what happens in the each phase is the cell prepares for actual cell division. So we make extra proteins that are important for mitosis. The first phase of mitosis is prophase. What happens in prophase is that the spindle apparatus begins to form. Also, the nuclear envelope begins to disappear, and the last thing is that chromosomes begin to coil up. The next phase is metaphase. So what happens in metaphase is that the spindle apparatus completely forms, and it attaches to each of those sister chromatids. And the other thing that happens is that the chromosomes are aligned in the middle. In my own opinion, this is the easiest phase to actually identify because the chromosomes are perfectly aligned in the middle. The next phase is anaphase. So what happens during the anaphase is that the spindle apparatus begin to become shorter and shorter, and it begins to separate those sister chromatids. So it begins to separate those chromosomes. The next phase is telophase. So what happens during telophase is that the spindle apparatus becomes even shorter and shorter, pulling each of those chromosomes to opposite ends of the cell. So those chromosomes actually reach the opposite ends of the cell. And finally, we go into cytokinesis. So what happens to the cytokinesis is that cytoplasm actually divides, and we have two daughter cells that look identical like the parent cell, identical in terms of size and also in terms of the amount of chromosomes that we have in each of those cells.